Good morning, people of Earth, Canadians, viewers from around the world. We picked up quite a few last night. Welcome. I am your host, Rick Richards, and this is the COVID Cast 17 for the morning of March 27th, 2020. I am in desperate need of a haircut. So if anybody, look at this. If anybody knows a hairdresser in the South Surrey or Langley or Cloverdale region that can professionally cut hair from their home, hook a guy up, because I got to do something about this, man. It's getting pretty unruly. It's getting pretty hairy out there, right? So again, welcome to the show. I'm going to take a shot of Joker Energy. Don't have my usual monster this morning. I'm going to have to make do with Joker. Oh, that one's a little harsh. Oh, it's a little harsh, but these are tough times. We all have to make do, don't we? So before we kick it off with our shout outs and get into the program, I am announcing a new sponsor of the program. Hold on. Yes, there we go. Athletic Alliance Advanced Nootropics to help you think clearly. They make you better, faster, smarter. And smarter is the important aspect right now. So let's welcome our new sponsor. Yes, that is the Advanced Nootropic Brainstorm from Athletic Alliance. And one thing, sports supplements, nutraceuticals, vitamins, all of these products are considered essential items at this time, along with grocery and, of course, pharmaceuticals. So you are able to find these online at SVN Canada, across the country in GNC stores, across all of North America in GNC. As a matter of fact, as long as they are open, GNC has shut some of their mall locations, and they are doing curbside service. So if you want, you can go in, you can buy this product, and you can simply have it delivered out to the curb. So I can say I use this myself all the time, every morning, sometimes twice a day, actually, and I'm sharp as a tack. Okay, so let's get into our updates. Actually, no, let's do our shout outs first. We got a lot of new viewers. We've been picking up a lot of new subscribers. I want to say hi to all of you. Hit me up in the comments. I'll give you a direct shout out. Shout out to Ivan, Sector B49. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Dwayne and Charlene. Shout out to Kushi. Shout out to Tanya, Tammy, Lisa, Carol, Heather. As I've said before, I do very well in the female 35 to 49 demographic. And if you're under that demographic, that's okay. And shout out to Rick and Chad. And of course, our producer, Dave Darnley, and Terry McLean, and Long Duck Dong. Long Duck Dong is my favorite commenter. He actually changed his avatar to Micro Duck Dong. Don't know what's the motivation behind that, but hey, welcome all. Welcome one and all. Let's get into our updates, shall we? So we are still dealing with this virus. Hang on, getting a bit of spam here. Hold on a second. Okay. All right. I have taken control of the show once again. Let's refresh this because we know this number changes fast and frequently. We are now globally well over 500,000 cases of the coronavirus, 574,834. The death toll is 26,368, nearly 130,000 recovered. And, the recovery number, it seems low in comparison. But this one thing I have noticed with this virus is it takes a long time. People that get it seem to have it for weeks, at least 2 weeks. Individual countries, the US, things are really moving ahead in the US in terms of numbers. And this is why it was somewhat surprising to hear that the United States was sending troops to the Canadian border. I think we have a lot more to concern about them crossing over into Canada than the other way around. New cases. Death rate is fairly low by comparison, considering they have almost 100,000 cases. Total deaths, 1,300. New deaths, 89. So that's not too extreme. As I told you, we're looking for numbers lower than 10%. New deaths lower than 10% of total deaths. That means the rate is slowing. We had been seeing the death count double every 6 days. It's a little alarming. Italy, total deaths is up to 9,000. They've had a big boost. So the Italian number, I've been watching it closely, looking for a flattening trend or a slowing down. And we had seen that earlier this week. The death count, the new deaths were as low as 600, a little over 600. And then they spiked back up, and I wasn't sure if that was an aberration, but this is a really big spike up again. This is again 10%. So they've had nearly 1,000 new deaths in one day, which is that's pretty shocking. China, I don't even know if we can trust these numbers. Either they have extreme draconian measures in place, which it doesn't sound like they do. It sounds like most of their economy is open again and people are interacting. Spain, continuing to be hit hard in Spain. I mean, take into consideration they have 64,000 cases, and Spain has maybe 15% of the population of the United States. Like, it's way smaller. Germany, also a lot of cases. The death rate is creeping up in Germany. I believe I said yesterday, when I was going through the rule of 72 yesterday morning, I said within 5 days, at their current rate, Germany would be at 500 total deaths. And they are still on pace for that. France hasn't sent in their numbers yet. The UK, the death rate is still very high there. That death rate, it looks like it's over 20%. That is very high. That means the death rate is going to double in 3 to 4 days. So expect about 1,500 deaths by March 30th in the UK. Canada, we're at 4,000 now, 39 total deaths. I believe there's been 3 in the last 24 hours. I don't know that for sure, though. What else? Let's go down to some other places of interest. And they're of interest mainly for the methods. Russia, comparatively speaking, seems to have a tight control on things. Let's look for Jamaica. Actually, Russia and Jamaica are doing 2 things in common, which I thought was quite interesting. And I've got this from actual reports from people in those countries. Where's Jamaica? Jamaica's way down here. Jamaica is way down. And of course, I realize that hindsight is 2020. So Jamaica has 26 cases and 1 death assigned to this. I realize hindsight is 2020, but what Jamaica and Russia, well, Russia's handled this well right from the beginning. What Russia did is January 30th, they closed their border to all traffic from China. That was a very smart move. That's saved lives, saved a lot of lives, right? And what Jamaica and Russia are both doing now is they have they have a quarantine or an isolation that's applicable to people 65 and older. So they're quarantining the most vulnerable population, which makes a lot of sense to me. And that way things can, continue as normal, but the most vulnerable people are not being infected. So that's what's happening globally. Here in our own backyard, so to speak. Let's take a look. Canada, we are at, according to the other site, we are at 4,000 cases, just under 4,000, yeah, or just over 40,000 cases, or 4,000 cases, 39 total deaths. Quebec is way out in front. The death count in Ontario has spiked quite a bit. They're up to 15, 14 in BC. BC has the most recovered, 186. In terms of actual on the ground updates, really nothing really of interest. Nothing really new, or nothing we haven't seen before. And one of the things we really need to start watching for now, I would say, in terms of data that we can use to evaluate in making our decisions forward. Okay, so most of the stuff shut down March 13th, right? So 2 weeks ago. That's when I know competitions were being canceled, future classes were being canceled. This is when kind of the whole self-quarantine, and this is when I decided that I was going to do this for a couple weeks. So we're at 2 weeks, right? Now, up until that point, there really hadn't been much in the way of preventative measures. And I would say we were still getting people in from other countries right up until a week ago. So the infections, a large scale amount of infections would have taken place by that point, right? And so you would have to think, and I know that people continued to interact after that point, but you would have to think the majority of problems out there would have been baked in the cake and would have been out spreading within the community, not from people coming in, but within the community by that point, right? So these measures have been in place 2 weeks now, and they've been ratcheting up. So they're going to continue, but this from this point on is when we should see the most cases transferring to the general population, right? We should see those now. And I don't know. I don't know if we will. I don't think we will. I think my own sense is that this virus is going to pass through a lot of people, and it will be an extreme flu, a little more contagious version of the flu, and it's going to affect a lot of people, particularly people with compromised immune systems. And a lot of people are going to get through it and just be down for a few days, right? Or probably longer, actually, probably a couple weeks. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had his morning press conference this morning, or his morning briefing, I guess you would call it. And I would give him a C+. I thought it was very good. Hey, you heard this here first. Remember, if you are a faithful watcher, faithful viewer of this program, then you would have heard me over a week ago say that the best thing that the government could do is avoid layoffs and avoid people going on to EI and send support directly to companies that could keep them on the payroll for at least a month. I mean, this can't go on indefinitely, obviously. We can't expect employers to have people in a state of suspension that's being paid for 6 months, 9 months. That's completely unworkable. However, if we think we can control things within a month, 6 weeks, and I'm sure that's what it's going to be, because there's too many wealthy people out there that are going to say, fuck this, let's get the economy going. So I'm sure that's what's going to happen. So 30 days is adequate time. And the government, to their credit, a lot of people will attack politicians and say, oh, they flip-flopped, or first it was this, now it's this. But hey, you know what? That's a high pressure situation, right? I don't think it's Trudeau that's actually coming up with these things. I think it's his team. But they came up with something. It clearly was not going to work as well as they had wanted it to. And there were some downsides to it. And I mean, they're being expected to come up with this stuff fairly quickly. They turned it around rather quickly, and they have adjusted to my plan. I will take credit for this. Maybe there's people in high places watching this show. I don't know. But you can go back, you can review the episodes, and I was the first one that I know of to come up with this. So that's what's going to happen, and that's great news. Unless, of course, but I mean, this is again one of these things, and you get this with all politicians, or at least the better ones. They mouth out these platitudes, and it sounds fantastic. It sounds great, and then they have absolutely no execution. You can't get through to people. You don't qualify. That's what we have to watch for now. Number one. So what they're going to do is they are now going to subsidize. If you are an employer, they're going to subsidize employees if you've been affected by this business up to 75% of the employee's salary, right? And that's going to be retroactive. I thought that was a very nice move as well, retroactive to March. So yes, that I give them an A+ on if they execute it. And if you're self-employed yourself, you can still go into the emergency support coverage you can get. Apparently, I don't know. I'm going to try this out myself. I'm going to see if all this works out, because my business is getting absolutely hammered through this, right? So this will definitely apply to me. I'll let you guys know how it goes. It sounds good in theory, and you know what? Let's at least give them credit for that. They're at least addressing this, right? We saw them do some sneaky shit last week or a couple days ago, at the beginning of the week, trying to jam a whole bunch of stuff in to be attached to their spending. I will give them credit for this, though. Few things that I won't give them credit for is, a reporter asked Justin Trudeau how long he expects these isolation measures to continue. And he gave a very totalitarian, vague answer. He said, that will depend on you. As long as Canadians are doing the right things and practicing self-isolation and then we will get through this. So in other words, nobody knows. And this kind of reminds me of, you remember when you were a kid and your teacher would say, you know what? They would hold you, right? It would be recess or it would be lunch. The bell rang, everybody's ready to go. But no, these power trippers, they want to hold you there. And they say, no, we're not going until everyone's quiet. And I find this a really despicable way of acting, because number one, they're enforcing their power on you, even if you are doing the correct thing. But they are punishing you for the actions of someone else. And they are coercing you to enforce the actions of other people. And I really find that despicable. And that's what we're seeing now with the government. So we're getting these vague answers like, this will end when everybody does the right thing. Okay, yeah, that's very crystal clear, right? So what am I? Do I need to go drive through the streets and police people to make sure that they're not in groups of 4 people, right? I find that very unsatisfying, and that's something we should hold their feet to the fire for. So otherwise, okay, good marks. Somebody asked him about the carbon tax and, if he was going to be dropping it, or suspending it. And no, it looks like that's going through. And he's given us the answer that, you know what, it's going to put more money in the pockets of Canadians. Oh, sure it will, right? Because that's what taxes do, right? When you get taxed, it gives you more money. No. So yeah, that's what knocked him down. I had him at an A+ at the start, and then he worked his way down to about a C+. We'll give him a C+.